His name was Michael. He had just turned 30. Not long ago, he had a picture of how life would look by now. A steady job, a loving partner, maybe a dog, maybe a cozy apartment that actually felt like home. But that picture had faded. His job was gone, cutbacks, they said. Just business. His girlfriend had left not long after, saying she needed someone more stable. His parents had passed away years ago, and his once tight-knit group of friends scattered. Everyone seemed to be busy building their lives while his felt like it was falling apart. Each day melted into the next. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, pretend to look for jobs online, maybe eat, maybe not, go for a walk, return to silence, fall asleep if sleep would come. But the hardest part wasn't the loneliness or the uncertainty. It was the silence from God. Michael had always believed, not perfectly, but sincerely. He had grown up going to church, reading scripture, singing along to worship songs with a heart that truly wanted to feel God's presence. He wasn't naive, knew life wouldn't be easy, but he thought that in his darkest hours, God would be there, that he would feel something, a sign, a whisper, a sense of peace. But all he felt was nothing. He prayed, night after night, sometimes with tears, sometimes with anger.
God, where are you?
He whispered one evening, lying on the floor in the dark.
I don't need a miracle, I just need to know you haven't forgotten me.
No answer, just the quiet hum of his refrigerator in the next room. It almost mocked him. He tried to force faith, read his Bible, listened to sermons online, scrolled through social media posts about trusting God's timing, but those words felt hollow. He began to wonder if maybe he had fooled himself all these years. Maybe God had stopped listening, or maybe, worst of all, God had never been there to begin with. One day, after another rejected job application, Michael took a long walk through a nearby park. It was early evening, golden light spilling through the trees, painting everything in a soft, warm glow. Families were laughing, couples holding hands, kids running with ice cream smeared on their cheeks. And he felt invisible. He sat down on a bench and stared ahead.
I don't get it.
He muttered,
I've done everything right. I'm not perfect, but I've tried to follow you. And now, when I need you most, nothing. Not even a whisper.
He looked up at the sky.
Why won't you speak?
A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above him. And then, not a voice, but a memory. He remembered being 17, sitting around a campfire during a church retreat. One of the leaders had said,
When a teacher gives a test, they don't talk. The silence doesn't mean they're gone, it means you're in the middle of learning something.
He had nodded back then, not really grasping it. But now, that sentence hit differently. He whispered it aloud.
The silence doesn't mean you're gone.
He sat quietly for a while, letting the thought sink in.
What if God was still there? What if the silence wasn't punishment, but preparation? And maybe, just maybe, silence wasn't empty. Maybe it was full of purpose, just not the kind he could see yet.
He stood up slowly and walked home. That night, for the first time in a long while, he lit a candle on his desk. Not for ritual, just for quiet. He didn't say much, just sat, breathed, waited. And in that stillness, he didn't hear words, but his heart felt steadier, like someone was holding him even if he couldn't see it. Days went on. His problems didn't disappear, but his perspective began to shift. Instead of begging God to speak, he began to listen even if there was only silence. And in that silence, he started to see beauty again. In the sun, through his window, in the unexpected smile from a stranger, in the verses he'd once memorized, that now felt like lifelines. He was still waiting, still healing, but he wasn't alone anymore, because sometimes God is silent not because he's absent, but because he's working. And faith, true faith, grows strongest in the quiet,